Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good night. We are group number 4. That we are Joaquín Acuña, Ayala Sergio, Barbosa Mariana, Alana Valdez, and me, Mendez Eileen. And let's talk about sociolinguistic. In this part, we are talking about sociolinguistic. The term sociolinguistic is used generally for the study of the relationship between the language and society. This is a broad area of investigation that developed through the interaction of linguistic with a number of other academic disciplines. The next, thank you. So in this part, it's a strong connection with the anthropology through the study of the language and culture, and with sociology through the investigation of the roles language plays in the organization of social groups and institutions. It's also tied to social psychology, particularly with the regard to how attitudes and perception are expressed in how in-group and out-group behavior identified. So we use all this connection. We try to analyze language from a social perspective. And the last for me, um, from a sociolinguistic point of view, language view a social and cultural phenomenon shaped by various factors, include social context, cultural norms, power dynamics, identity, and social relationship. Sociolinguistics examines how language use reflects and influences social structure, interaction, identities between a community and society. The relationship between language and society can be defined as dynamic and reciprocal. And this part uh, pay attention in this. Language as social behavior. The linguistic recognizes that language is not only means of communication, but also a form of social behavior. People use language to express their social identities, establish social relationships, convey social status, and negotiate social power dynamics. And at this point is variation and change. Sociolinguistic study the variation and change in language use across different social groups, contexts, and time periods. Language variation can occur at various levels, including the phonological, morphological, and syntactic and lexical feature. Sociolinguistics investigate how social factors such as age, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, and geographical location influence language variation and change. The other point is language and identity. Language plays a crucial role in the constructions and negotiation of individual and group identities. Sociolinguistic research explores how language choice, accent, dialects, and the language ideologies contribute to the formation and expression of personal and social entities. So the language can be served as marker of group membership, solidarity, and belonging, as well as site of negotiation and resistance against denominated social norms. Other point is language attitude and ideologies. Sociolinguistic examines people's attitudes, beliefs, and ideologies about language. include perceptions of linguistic variation, language prestige, language standardization. Sociolinguistics research investigate how language attitudes shape language use and contribute to language discrimination, linguistics prejudice, and language planning efforts. And the last, language policy and planning. Sociolinguistics also consider the role of language in institutional contexts such as education, government, and media. Sociolinguistic studies of the language policies and planning explore issues related to language maintenance, language rehabilitations, bilingualism, multilingualism, and language rights. However, from the sociolinguistic perspective, language is a view as complex and multifaceted social phenomenon deeply intertwined with the social, cultural, political, and historical context. The relationship between language and society is reciprocal, with language both reflecting and shape social structure, interaction, identity, and power dynamics between the community or society. And so that's all for me.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the third year. Well, when we talk about the words and structures of a language in early chapters, we can go to talk about the characteristic of standard English. Uh, we have the it's a variety because it has no specific region, and well, we have the administrative, commercial, and educational centers. Regardless of region, if we think of Standard English, it is the version we believe is found in printed English, in newspaper and books. It's widely used in the mass media and is taught in most schools. It is the variety we normally try to teach to those who want to learn English as a second or foreign language. It's clearly associated with education because and we have, uh, for example, vocabulary, spelling, grammar than the spoken language. And if we are thinking of that general variety use in public broadcasting in the United States, we can refer more specifically to Standard American English, or in Britain, to Standard British English. In other parts of the world, we can talk about other recognized varieties such as Standard Australian English, Standard Canadian English, or Standard Indian English. And then, and then we have the dialect and accent. Basically, whether we think we speak a standard variety of English or not, we all speak with an accent. It is a myth that some speakers have accent while others do not. We might feel that some speakers have very distinct or easily recognized types of accent, while others may have more subtle or less accent. But every language user speaks with an accent. Technically, the term accent is restricted to description of aspect of pronunciation that identify where an individual speaker is from, regionally or socially. It is different from the term dialect, which used to describe features of grammar and vocabulary, as well as aspect of pronunciation. Where recognize that the sentence you don't know what you're talking about will generally look the same whether spoken with an American accent or Scottish accent, but the speaker will be using form associated with Standard English but have different pronunciations. For example, uh, no, sorry. However, this we have different sentences, and well, you have the different meaning. And then we have, for example, pronunciation by with and about, but there are also some of different vocabulary. For example, can and having, and a different grammatical form. Deny, while difference in vocabulary are often easily recognized. Dialect variation in the meaning of grammatical construction are less frequently documented. Um, I think that is all for me.
We were talking about the dialectology. We can say that despite of occasional difficulties, there's a general impression of mutual intelligibility among many speakers of different dialects of English. This is one of the criteria used in the study of dialects of dialectology to distinguish between two different dialects of the same language, whose speakers can usually understand each other, and two different languages, whose speakers can't usually understand each other. This is not the only or the most reliable way of identifying dialects, but it is helpful in establishing the fact that each different dialect, like each language, is equally worthy of analysis. It is important to recognize from a linguistic point of view that none of the varieties of a language is inherently better than any other. They are simply different. From a social point of view, however, some varieties do become more prestigious, in as the standard language has usually been one socially prestigious dialect, originally associated with a center of economic and political power. For example, London for British English and Paris for French. Yet, there are always continue to be other varieties of a language spoken in different regions. Then, if we're talking about Dardo, we can say that he has a different point of view talking about the variety of a language. This can be defined as a specific set of linguistic items or speech patterns that exhibit similar distribution. This definition allows for the recognition of different types of language varieties, including the regional dialects, the sociolects associated with social groups, and even specialized forms like the legal language or informal like the cocktail party talk. Ward Ho says that the concept of variety encompasses both the similarities and the variations within language used across different groups or contexts. It acknowledges that languages are not uniform but exhibit internal diversity shaped by geographical, social, and functional factors. This understanding is fundamental in social linguistics for analyzing how the linguistic differences are perceived, maintained, and evolve within the societies.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the social dialects and the different types of variety of factors. Firstly, we need to know that the social dialect is a variety of speech associated with a particular social class or occupational group within a society, also known as sociolect, group idiolect, and class dialect. But this contributes to an immediate problem, that is of defining social groups or social class, giving proper weight to the various factors that can be used to determine social positions. For example, the occupation, the place of residence, the education, new versus old money, income, racial or ethnic origin, cultural background, caste, religion, and so on, many others. Well, for example, the various regional dialects are geographically based, with social dialects originate among social groups and are related to a variety of factors, and the principle, that of the factors are for are these three, like social class, religion, and ethnicity. For example, in India, caste determines which language variety a speaker use. In Baghdad, Christians, Jews, and Muslims each have their own variety of Arabic, but Muslims use theirs as a common language for intergroup communication. And other examples can be that in the US, African American Vernacular English is closely associated with African American identity, and many other examples. Okay, so the next topic is the what is an Aya dialect? Well, a dialect is the personal dialect or the speech habits peculiar to a particular person. This term implies an awareness that no two persons speak in exactly the same way and that each person's dialect is constantly undergoing change. And this is an simple example that says in his strange dialect he preferred to call angels angelicals. So it's mean like different ways of saying one word for different type of person. No two persons can say the same word. And for last one of part of me, I have a speech style and speech shifting. A speech style is a variation of speech which is used when people communicate with the others. Each person has different style when they speak depending on their situation. A speech style is the important part in communication for different goals and different topics, even though they communicate with the same language. There are five types that are frozen style, formal style, consultative style, casual or also informal style, and intimate style. And these five types are going from the most formal to the most casual in a conversation. And next, we have the speech shifting, that is the process of replacing a language with another as the means of communication and socialization for both an individual and a speech community. In other words, we can say that is a language is shift is the gradual process by which a bilingual community becomes monolingual. And for example, we can say that a language shift occurred in Ireland circa since 1600 to 1900. That says that the Irish language was gradually replaced by English. And that's all for my part.
Well, then talking about the register, jargon, and slang, we can say that it's the way we speak that is influenced by our social identity and the context in which we are speaking. This influence can come from a register that is a specific style of language used in certain situations, or maybe by particular groups, for example, in a church, among lawyers, or discussion language. Then, the jargon, that is a specialized vocabulary used by professionals or groups. For example, the plaintiff, in legal contexts, to create a sense of belonging among its insiders and exclude the outsiders. Then the slang, that is the informal language used by people outside of higher status groups, often by the younger people, to distinguish themselves from others. For example, the bags for money, dope for really good. Well, we can say that the slang and fashion, that the slang changes quickly and it is often tied to fashion, especially among the teenagers. For example, in words like the groovy and super were replaced by awesome and rad, which were then replaced by dope and kick-ass. Taboo words. Wait, talking about the taboo words, we can say that are swear words or offensive language that people avoid in polite company. The usage varies by social group and context. In a study, lower status high school students use taboo words more freely, while higher status students use them more selectively. To make a summary about this, we can say that the way we speak, including the use of jargon and slang, reflects our social identity and the context. Jargon is a specialized vocabulary used by professionals, while slang is informal language used by younger people or those outside high status groups. And finally, the slang changes quickly and helps people in groups to distinguish themselves from others. And the use of taboo words also varies by social status and context, with lower status groups using them more freely and higher status groups using them more selectively. And yeah, that's all for me.
So to talk about social barriers, actually exists uh, a great percentage of geographical barriers that affects and foster linguistic differences in regional dialects. When we talk about social barriers, we are referring to discrimination and segregation, help to create marked differences between social dialects. For example, in the case of a um, I, African American English, throughout history they have been categorized as bad. In this case, the speech pattern is traced to such as abnormal by this dominant group known as normal. Even though AAI speakers continue to be discriminated, the social dialect has achieved to be successful, particularly with the popular music. Next, please. Okay. Now we have African American vernacular. Vernacular has been used since the Mid Ages. This term used to be used to describe local European language, low prestige, in contrast to Latin, high prestige. The term vernacular could be used such as general expression for a kind of social dialect, normally spoken by a lower status group, as the spoken by a lower status groups. Vernacular language of African American shares a number of characteristics with other non-standard varieties, such as Chicano English, spoken in some Hispanic American communities. Uh, it is important to speak about an important phonological characteristic in A, N, I. Another English vernaculars is the tendency to reduce final consonants clusters so that were ending in two consonants. For example, left hand are often pronounced as if there is only on. For example, left on. That's all for me. Thank you very much.